With Chapter D, we're getting into coordinate graphing. What we call this is a coordinate plane, and we want to label all of the different parts. So, I'm going to start out by labeling the x-axis over here, the y-axis here. The way that I remember this is that the x is a smaller letter. It has to lay down and take a nap. It's sideways. The y is a taller letter. It stands up tall, and that's the one that goes up and down. Quadrant 1 is going to be upper right-hand corner, dealing with all positives. That's the one that we deal with most. Then we go counterclockwise. So we've got quadrant 2, quadrant 3, and quadrant 4. The way that I remember that is if we were to draw a C for coordinate plane, the C would go around like this, and that's the order that they go in, the 1, 2, 3, 4. So we've labeled our quadrants, we've labeled the y-axis. A coordinate point is right here. It is always given with parentheses and then an x-coordinate and a y-coordinate. The origin is always directly in the center. And then we've got the x-intercept and the y-intercept. What those are when you have a line plotted where it crosses the y-axis is called the y-intercept, and where it crosses the x-axis is called the x-intercept. Where does this line cross the x-axis? Remember, the x is small, it lays down, crosses right here, and the coordinates would be 3, and we move to the right 3, and up and down 0. I always say you have to look both ways before you cross the street, meaning you have to move left and right first before you go up and down. I also say move the ladder before you climb it. You wouldn't climb the ladder and then try to move it at the top, so you have to move left and right first before you go up and down. Where does this cross the x or the y-axis? You have to go left and right 0, and then you have to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So at 0, 6. Over here, where does it cross the x-axis? You have to go to the left, so we've got a negative 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we have to go up and down 0. Where does it cross the y-axis? You go left and right 0, and then up 3. What I want you to notice is that on slide 3, when you had the x-axis, the y was 0, and when you had the y-axis, the x was 0. That's important as we move forward. So here, where does it cross the x-axis? So here's the x-axis. Where will this line cross? It won't. So you could put no solution, or it never does. Where does it cross the y-axis? It crosses at left and right 0, up 2. Notice the y-axis, my x is 0. Where does this one cross the x-axis? Remember, this is our x, this is our y. Crosses at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We had to go to the right 5, up and down 0. Notice with the one with our x-intercept, our y was 0. Where does it cross the y-axis? It never will, so no solution. What you want to keep in mind is that the x-intercept can be found when the y value is 0. So it doesn't matter what this is, what the x is, but as long as this is 0, that means that's going to be your x-intercept. And then with the y-intercept, it can be found when the x is 0. So the x value is 0, and then it doesn't matter what this is, just as long as our x is 0. This is something you'll probably want to come back to as you go through the lesson homework in the future lessons, because it'll help you come up with your answer. Here it says find the x-intercept, which is when y is 0. So what I'm going to do...
Did I see you are going to be in...
Sorry about that, somebody came in. So we're looking to find the x-intercept, which is when y is 0. So I'm going to take this equation right here, and instead of putting in a y, I'm going to put in a 0. And we want to figure out what that solution would be. So since the y is 0, instead of y I plugged in 0, that's going to give me 3x plus 4 times 0 is 0 equals 12, which leaves me with 3x equals 12. divide by 3, and x equals 4. So my coordinates would be, remember it goes x and then y. We said my x was 4 and my y was 0. So here would be our x-intercept. Now we've got to find the y-intercept. So I'm going to do the same thing, except it's when our x value is 0. So we know our x will be 0. We're looking for our y. So I'm going to take 3 times 0 plus 4y equals 12, which is 0 plus 4y equals 12, which is 4y equals 12. Divide both sides by 4, and y equals 3. So this is the coordinate point of our y-intercept. The next one, find the x-intercept. It's when our y is 0. So you take this equation, where y is, you're going to plug in 0. I'm going to go ahead and solve for x. Get 18 equals 9x. Divide by 9. And x equals 2. So our coordinate point would be 2, 0. There's our x, there's our y. Now if we want to find the y-intercept, it's when x is 0. So I'm going to go to my equation, and instead of x, I'm going to put in a 0, which gives me y equals 0 minus 18, which is y equals negative 18. If I put it as a coordinate point, my x is 0, my y is negative 18. There we go. It says find the x-intercept. Remember, the x-intercept is when our y value is 0. So I'm looking here, when our y is 0, our x is 2. So the coordinate point would be 2, 0. Find the y-intercept. It's when our x is 0. So I come up here, and the coordinate point would be 0, negative 4. Remember, you always list your x first, then your y. Find the x-intercept. It is when our y is 0. If you see here, there is no y value of 0, but you could continue on your pattern. So the y would go negative 2, negative 1, 0, and then you have to continue on the pattern. This one goes down by 1, so this would be negative 1, negative 2, negative 3. So our coordinate point would be negative 3, 0. Find the y-intercept. That's when our x is 0, and that one's on there. The x-intercept is when our y is 0. So when our y is 0, we get 6, 0. Find the y-intercept. That's when our x is 0. And we continue the pattern. This would be 0. This would be negative 6. The x-intercept is when y is 0. The y-intercept is when x is 0. When y is 0, that's not on here, but you'll notice we're going down by 2 each time. So the 0 would come here. Here we're going up by 1. So it would be 5, 0. Here, x is 0, it would be 0, 10. Some of them are easy to see, and some of them you have to look for a pattern. Find the x-intercept when y is 0. If you look at here, when will y be 0? It's never going to happen, which means it does not cross the x-axis. Okay? What that would look like on a graph is you go 0, let's say this is 10, so you go 0, 10, 1, 10, 2, 10, 3, 10, 4, 10, 5, 10. It's going to look like this, and it's never going to cross this x-axis. The y-intercept is when x is 0, so it's going to be at 0, 10, which you can see it's crossing the x-axis, or the y-axis right here. Here we go. The x-intercept is when y is 0. We're going down by 2. And what do you notice happens every time with our x's? Our x is going to be 5. If you were to plot this, it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 8 here. It's going to be a vertical line. So when the y is 0, it's going to be 5, 0. But if you look at this, when we plot it, does it ever cross the y-axis? It's when x is 0. X is never going to be 0, so that's going to be no solution, or does not cross, I can spell today, the y-axis. The next homework, you can just do them on here. It just was hard to see the homework that was assigned for you, so I just created another version of it. Good luck today with Mrs. Eden. I know she'll do great, and I miss you guys.